Right back at it with another edition of the Waterboys podcast. This is episode 23. Julian Mackenzie back at it. Frank Pavan on the other side of the Zoom call. Say hello to the people, Frank.
Hello, everyone. Yes, that is my name, Frank. Thank you for the introduction, Julian. I hope you are doing well.
I am doing pretty well. Pretty chill weekend. A lot of sports going on, of course. I watched a movie over the weekend.
Which one?
The new Michael B. Jordan movie, Without Remorse, on
Okay.
Amazon Prime, which I think is part of the Tom Clancy kind of war stuff series.
Yes. You know, they made that off a video game, right? Am I wrong here? Or did they
it's
make
off a video game?
Or is it
off of books? I thought it was books and then the video games and
now movie? Okay, that makes sense then.
That's what I think. I was never like a big Tom Clancy guy. Honestly, I'll be real with you here. I saw the trailer for the movie and I thought, okay, this is just another standard action movie. And then near the end of the trailer, there's this scene where Michael B. Jordan lights a car on fire and he steps into the car and he like steps up on a forward official. He's like, give me a name. And I saw the scene. I'm like, well, I have to watch this movie. It's got Michael B. Jordan walking into a flaming car. And that was like the best part of the entire movie because everything else about it was just kind of meh. It was very paint by numbers. Like Guy Pearce is in the movie. If you've watched like Memento or if you've watched Iron Man 3, you've probably seen who he is. But once I saw that actor step in, I was like, all right, I know who the bad guy is. And I'm sorry if sorry for spoiling it for everybody, but like trust me on this one. Like it's you're not gonna cry if you lose out watching Without Remorse. But you know Fair enough. I watched that movie. It was fine. It did what it needed me. It did what I wanted it to do for a late Sunday night.
Nice. Very good. Yeah.
What about you?
What did I do? I went golfing this weekend.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Real good. So anyways, it was a bit cold actually this weekend, but it was nice nonetheless. Yeah. Golf season is in full effect, but like you said, very chill. I enjoyed it, recharged, and we're right back at it. So I once again, Julian, I'm very happy to be sitting, air quotations, across from you.
Yes.
For this episode.
And I was trying to come up with a really like cool transition since you're talking about the cold and trying to connect it to Wisconsin and Green Bay.
It's a pretty cold place.
I feel like, yeah, it's naturally a cold place, but imagine being in Green Bay right now. Do you think with what's been going on here?
You know who else is being cold? You know who else is? Someone is being cold now.
You know, Frank, you got it right. That's why you are the brains behind this operation. Aaron Rodgers is being frosty with the Green Bay Packers organization. The NFL draft, which big shout out to Seth Galina for being on last week's episode and doing an amazing job being our guest. We broke down all the stuff about the prospects and who could go where and all these different quarterbacks being taken. And all we really wanted to talk about was Aaron Rodgers drawing the line in the sand saying, I want out of Green Bay. Like what's the deal here? And then reports start swirling around that, you know, it's either him or the general manager. And moments ago, before we started recording anyway, Davante Adams took to Twitter. I'm going to try to pull up the tweet here. Davante Adams going to Twitter, gotta appreciate what you got while you got it. Yes, and hey, look, Davante Adams, truer words have never been said. That's fine. I get it. You want to be appreciative of life. You want to be appreciative of the things you have. Yeah. The people around you, like an Aaron Rodgers. That's fine. That's totally fair. Everything is fine. Everything is cool. Dude, what do you think of Aaron Rodgers and this news? Like, what do you think of this?
Actually, you know what?
Yeah.
I'll begin my answer to this by posing a question to you. All right, Julian?
Okay, that's fine.
When do you think the last time the Green Bay Packers drafted a wide receiver in the first round was?
Randall Cobb wasn't a first round pick, was he?
He was not. He was a second rounder.
Okay. Was Greg Jennings a first round pick?
I don't know about that. I haven't gotten that far back. It's not that far back though.
So it's not that far back. Geez, we're talking like at beginning of last decade, 2010, 2011.
Yes, exactly. No, it precedes that. So it was 2008. Oh wait, not even. My God, I misread this. It goes further because I was looking at
did go
2008.
further back.
I was looking at 2008, and so excuse me to everyone listening. I was looking at 2008, which I felt like was long enough ago for this to happen. and then I see Jordy Nelson. I'm like, well, Jordy Nelson ended up being a pretty good player, I'm assuming, but I didn't look at the round properly, and he was actually a second rounder. So it actually goes further back. It goes further back just to answer that question. So, anyways, further back than 2008, I won't go scroll down here and be boring and create some white noise. But anyways, he hasn't had a first round talent in over maybe 13 years. Let's just say that. Let's just put it that way. Or first round wide receiver, excuse me.
Okay, I decided to go on Pro Football Reference, and I decided to scroll down the page just for myself, just to see if I could find who this wide receiver was. You are right. Jordy Nelson was a second round pick in 2008.
Yeah.
And I'm just scrolling. Greg Jennings was a second round pick in 2006. So we're talking about the Packers have not drafted the first round, a wide receiver in the first round.
Javon Walker, 2002.
That's before Aaron Rodgers was there.
So it ties back to your question. And
man.
I think that he has every right to kind of be mad. Like, I feel like the piece he's made. I mean, granted, they've had good pieces. Like we mentioned, Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams was a second rounder who's turned out to be just one of the best receiver in the game. They're seeing success with some other guys now, but like, I would be upset if I was Aaron Rodgers, an MVP guy, who's getting better with age, oddly enough, to not be better or properly insulated with the skill positions that the people that I throw the ball to. So, man, it would just be the biggest mic drop in all of maybe North American sports if he just calls it quits and goes and hosts Jeopardy.
Have you seen him on Jeopardy?
Yeah, real good.
Oh, you think he's real good? I've seen people say like he's dry.
Really?
Like,
okay.
But also I think like, come on, like Aaron Rodgers. I mean, like I think he's very interesting because of the job that he has and because of some other background stuff. But in comparison to other like NFL people, like in terms of like how he is, in terms of being animated, whatever, he's not necessarily the most animated person, but he's still interesting regardless. Like you could think of other athletes who are just not interesting at all, and like they're not animated. It's just like, well, why should I care about this person? But Aaron Rodgers, because he's so good at what he does, and even if he's not necessarily like animated and using my hands like I would, he's still like an interesting person to hear from. Yeah. But like for a show like Jeopardy, maybe it doesn't necessarily work. Maybe you want like a Ken Jennings. Maybe you want like a LeVar Burton. There's like a petition going around for LeVar Burton.
Yes.
I remember like months ago, there were like these odds for who the next Jeopardy host would be. And I think Joe Rogan was listed on that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I don't know if I want Joe Rogan hosting that. Anyway, I don't want to get off the rails here.
Yeah.
I'll say this about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers, I feel, has every right to be mad. Aaron Rodgers is the guy in Green Bay. He is the guy who was going to take the team, who would take a team from, middling status to a team literally a game away from making the Super Bowl. And that's literally what happened to him during the last season. I'd be mad as hell too.
And 2 seasons ago.
Yes.
In San Francisco.
Yes.
Yeah.
There are people who might think he's like whining and like, oh, like trying to get his way and whatever. And maybe I don't necessarily agree with Aaron Rodgers trying to be like, it's either me or the general manager here. But it's Aaron Rodgers, man. He's like, we look at Tom Brady as like the best in the game. But like I love to do it. Stephen A. Smith loves to do it. And I find a lot of NFL media love to do it. We love to give Aaron Rodgers his flowers when it comes time for him to get flowers. The things he's able to do in the pocket, the fact that he's able to roll out and do the things he's able to do there as well. He is a very special dude at quarterback, and he deserves to be insulated with some quality talent. And he had that in the early part of his career, and that's why he was able to win the one Super Bowl that he has. Since then, he's kind of had to make like, I don't know what like a really good food analogy is here. Like you're like leftover supreme out of the offense that he has right now. And the front office, they could do a better job of getting some talents for him. I saw a tweet the other day about how like the team almost the Packers almost drafted like T. Higgins, and they left T. Higgins out there, and we all know where T. Higgins is now. But I think Green Bay would have loved to have had T. Higgins at wide receiver as a number 2 behind a Devontae Adams. And look, Devontae Adams, a top tier receiver in this league, but everyone else behind him just very meh.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're referencing a tweet there, eh? When they were in on a certain wide receiver and then they just picked Jordan Love.
Yes.
I don't know if it was T, because Jordan Love was the first round. T. Oh, maybe they could have been in on T. I think it was someone else. Might have been CeeDee Lamb or something. But I know what you're talking about. Yeah, and it goes
fine.
It goes anyways. That doesn't matter. The base of this argument is that they were in on a wide receiver, but then they ended up picking Jordan Love. I get it. And
also Matt LaFleur too. There seems to be tension between Matt LaFleur and Aaron Rodgers, and I'm sure we didn't care to look at it when the team was winning the games they were winning, but at least in the first season, there definitely was tension.
And then something else that came to mind during the build up to the draft, which was essentially a Thursday, because this news broke Thursday afternoon, Thursday midday.
Yeah, like we were all like, what's funny actually, like the Tim Tebow news of him like looking to return to the NFL as a tight end. That whole news cycle lasted all of like 20 minutes before the Aaron Rodgers news came in, and the Tim Tebow story only returned to my head like right now.
Right. Yeah, good point. That's a good point. That's another storyline. That's another storyline altogether. But the news breaks about, Aaron Rodgers being extremely disgruntled, unhappy. And then you think, man, the guy's 37. He's still got some juice left in the tank. What if San Francisco makes a move to bring him back home?
Yeah.
That was all swirling in my head during the build up to the draft. Obviously, we know now Trey Lance lands in San Francisco. So that's obviously not in play anymore. But I'm sure it was something that management in San Francisco must have at least kicked tires or inquired on. I know the asking price would have been unreal. But, just to say, a guy who's unhappy and why not for his maybe last 3, 4, 5 years, I don't know. But also, Julian, doesn't he want a pay increase?
That wouldn't surprise me either. I think they were negotiating a contract extension.
Yeah, that's it.
They were negotiating a contract extension, and then things kind of went dead, and Aaron Rodgers was not happy with how things were going with that contract extension talk. And I think that's ultimately what led to him saying like, yeah, like I want out of here. I'm very mystified at how the Green Bay Packers have bungled all of this with a guy who the argument could be made he's the best quarterback in their franchise's history. Yes, Bart Starr and Brett Favre exist. That's why I'm saying arguably. But Aaron Rodgers has held this franchise together for the better part of 15 odd years. Well, maybe a little less, under 15 years, but still, this is a guy who means a lot to the Green Bay Packers. The key weapons on this team are a huge reason why they go is because of what Aaron Rodgers is able to do. They better fix this. I don't know. I mean, I know the Green Bay Packers could be like, hey, we could just sit and wait. We don't necessarily have to be pressured to do anything. This is also Aaron Rodgers. And if Aaron Rodgers is out there, you mean to tell me there's no team out there that's going to be kicking down doors? I'll even throw it to San Francisco, even though they did end up taking Trey Lance. If you have an opportunity to get Aaron Rodgers, and have Trey Lance kind of sit back here, like, you think about it.
Yeah, that would require some heavy.
Yeah, we're going to start Jimmy Garoppolo anyway, no?
Definitely. No, I get it. And it makes you wonder, at least. And it also makes you wonder about what you said. Like, how do they fix this? Like, it seems pretty severe. It seems like it's not just a good old handshake, pat on the back, and we'll see you on in training camp. It seems a lot more serious than this. So we'll never know what truly happens, but those closed door meetings will be quite intense over at Lambeau Field, that's for sure. But overall, Aaron Rodgers aside, what did you think about the draft? I mean, that is a spectacle. It's a show. It's a live event. It's not even just a draft at this point.
I wonder if they're going to continue that added element where they had the fans sit on the couch or the little chair thing. And then it was the chair that Roger Goodell sat in last year's draft. I recognize that. Did you see the Kansas City fans who went up to announce a pick, and then one of them took it as an opportunity to propose to their fiance? No, someone actually did that. They did do that. That was cool. That was a fun spectacle thing. Jacoby Jones. that was fun too.
Yeah.
Going up on stage and getting booed, and he's all like, "You can boo me all you want, but I got a ring."
Yeah,
Like
I got a ring.
that was really funny. That was
Yeah.
really funny. That's one of my favorite parts of the draft is when you see like NFL players step up and they taunt the fan base represented at the NFL draft. So I like the show part of that.
One question for you though.
Yeah.
Show aside,
Yes.
who's one player that you're seriously going to be following moving into their NFL career? Obviously, I mean, we know you're a Jets fan. You've got Zach Wilson. I mean, you even got Elijah Moore. I mean, Elijah Vera Tucker. Very nice draft for you guys. But who's one player you're going to be keeping an eye on moving forward? Who you're a fan of? I want to hear it.
Justin Fields. Justin Fields easily. He goes to Chicago after the Bears trade up in the draft and they get him. We know about how much of a smokescreen it was with the Niners looking at Mac Jones. They end up taking Trey Lance at 3, and it ultimately affects Justin Fields' stock. He still ends up being a top 15 quarterback, but not a top 10 quarterback picked. There had been like a story going around just before about how I think Fields was like mildly epileptic as well, and he had to kind of fight that off as well.
Yes.
This is a guy who I think has a pretty cool story, and I want to see what he'll do in Chicago, a franchise that has been starving for a capable quarterback for quite some time. They move on from Mitch Trubisky, and Andy Dalton's there, and we all thought Andy Dalton was going to be QB1. In fact, the Bears put out the tweet saying he was QB1. So what's going to happen there?
I love the aggressiveness out of Chicago for this draft. It's what they needed, I think, after a few years of really being down the dumps, like because they've had such a great team, they just haven't been able to piece anything offensively. And I think Justin Fields completely changes that dynamic. Allen Robinson, who was rumored to be unhappy leading up to the offseason, now has a guy who, hey, I mean, I don't want to discredit Andy Dalton. Trust me, I'm very familiar with him. But the second you have Andy Dalton and you like swap in Justin Fields right there, you're going to have a lot of more people hooked, just because, you know, Andy Dalton is like is what you think of when you think of just a really good average starting quarterback. Like he's just, you know, no discredit there, but Justin Fields will garner much more attention. And I'm happy for Allen Robinson in that sense too, because hey, now I'm sure this is maybe that was pressure too. That management felt like, hey, we can't let go of Allen Robinson. He's one of the best wide receivers in the game, and let's pair right. Like I firmly believe that, honestly, and I feel like why not? Let's trade up. Let's make some magic here with Justin Fields, Allen Robinson, and obviously they have some of the good pieces, David Montgomery, etc. If I were to pick one player, Julian, I know you didn't ask it to me back, but it's okay. It's okay here.
I mean, you're the one talking the last few minutes here. You took it for yourself. I was going to ask you, but you know, I'll just play.
Oh, it's all jokes here. But
it's all jokes, of course.
One guy that I'm looking forward to keeping an eye on, and I will be keeping an eye on him quite closely, Najee Harris. Very excited to see how he does. Obviously, big Bengals fan here, but I know the spot in which he was selected doesn't have many people happy. Many people say, "Oh, why are you going to draft a running back in the first round? You might get better value elsewhere." But like, he's just an all-around talent. He's like a bruiser back who can catch the ball. Pittsburgh has O-line issues, but and honestly, like, how can you not be a fan of Najee Harris? He seems like such an generous. I don't know. I'm
listen to his interviews. Go listen to his interviews. He seems like a really interesting character, a really fun guy to listen to. And I think the story you're referencing where he held his draft party at a homeless shelter. That was really cool. That's one of the more fun stories of the draft. I was surprised to see Najee Harris get picked as high as he was. I think it's kind of interesting. You know what's funny, actually? I was watching a random draft video before we were recording. It's a video on how Mel Kiper, he was rising up to prominence being the analyst that he is. And then he started this beef with the Colts general manager, Bill Tobin at the time, who was wondering like, hey, why does everyone care so much about what Mel Kiper thinks? And in that draft, the Colts had like 2 top 10 picks, and like third or like one of like a top 5 pick was like Marshall Faulk. And like, I know we're a couple of years removed of like Saquon Barkley being a top 5 pick, but considering how people feel about running backs now in the first round, like when are we going to see another running back get taken like top 5, like top 10? Like how much is that going to get scrutinized now? And the fact that we're looking at Najee Harris, who was picked in like the later stages of the first round, and people are scrutinizing that. I know some Steelers fans are not happy about that, but it's really interesting to see how the position of running back has has gone from, yeah, man, you get a guy who's like an impact player in a top 5, top 10 position versus guys who are giving shit to organizations who are drafting them near the bottom of the first round. So, but I'm rooting for Najee Harris. I'm hoping that he does well. I hope he does well. I don't like the Steelers either, but I hope he does well with the Steelers.
Yeah, same. I'm in the same boat as you, man. I do hope to see him do well. And let's not forget, we're talking about running backs in the first round. Right after him, number 25, Travis Etienne to Jacksonville too. So back to back for the running backs in the first round. So that was good.
ACC back, longtime Clemson back. I love Travis Etienne. So good to see that he's going to be reunited with his teammate and a guy who, in the midst of all of the draft talk, like, we all kind of forgot, like, Trevor Lawrence went like first overall. It's like the least amount of attention ever given to like a first over. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but like, we cared so much about the number 3 pick. We cared so much about everyone else coming after. Like, it was just like a foregone conclusion that Trevor Lawrence was going to go number 1. So everyone just kind of said, all right, whatever. Like, who cares?
Yeah.
Like, we know what's going to happen.
That's a great point. Like, the number 1 overall pick was not given the hype, like the media coverage of a number 1 overall pick traditionally. He wasn't at the draft either. So I guess, like, if he was actually there, maybe, you'd have more news circling. But no, I think he'll be terrific for Jacksonville. It's this new rebrand for down in Duval.
You think he'll be solid? You think he'll be good? I'm thinking about it, right? Because like, he'll be in with like a brand new head coach with Urban Meyer, and I'm thinking like, this could either be good, this could just be I don't know. I hope it's good, but like, I want to see something. I want to see him ball out. I know he balls out in college. I want to see him do it.
I think
you gotta be careful with these picks.
Yeah, look, we're talking about a reunion. I think he'll have some comfort playing with Travis Etienne. Obviously, they're going to be running a 1-2 punch with James Robinson. Many people were questioning that as well, but that's a conversation for another day. I think you often talk about these number 1 picks going into situations where they don't have much around them. I don't think that's the case in Jacksonville. Honestly, like, Gardner Minshew looked good at times in Jacksonville. Like they've got players like DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault, who they drafted last year, and Cam Robinson to stabilize that O-line. I know they have a few other pieces. I'm not mentioning Travis Etienne, James Robinson. Like, they've got a decent core. Like, I think they can surprise some teams. No over the top elite talent, I'd say, aside from Lawrence, if he can fill those shoes. But I don't know. I think there's obviously going to be growing pains for Jacksonville. Not going to call for maybe a positive record or even a 500 record, but I think they'll be able to prove some doubters wrong.
Yeah.
But that's my brief outlook on the Jacksonville Jaguars. But no, look, it's exciting times, and the draft was good. I enjoyed it. I think you did as well. But
I did.
Good man. Yeah, I mean, how could you not? It gives us that buzz. I mean, this is always it's a love and hate relationship. If you see the draft and you have the draft happen and you're so hyped up, and then you want to see those players in jersey, but you don't because we want to enjoy our summer. You get what I'm saying?
I get you, right? Like, he's like, it's too close, it's too soon to see the NFL come in, because then that means the weather gets a little colder. But,
exactly.
Yeah, pretty fun.
Exactly.
But yeah, a lot of talk on the NFL. I wanted to just bring up the NBA here, and I know I feel I don't do a good job of bringing up the NBA here, because for whatever reason, the regular season, I'll admit it here. I mean, yeah, there's been some good games here and there. There's been some interesting storylines here and there. I don't feel I always felt the NBA regular season was not the most interesting thing to watch. It's the playoffs that everything kind of just, breaks loose. That's when it gets really, really interesting. But this year's regular season looks to be pretty interesting because of a play-in tournament that looks to be happening in about 2 weeks' time, where the 7th seed through 10th seed in both conferences will be playing in some play-in games to determine who the 7th and 8th seeds will be in their respective conferences. The Los Angeles Lakers have been they're in 7th place right now in the Western Conference, and LeBron James, it looks as if he's been he was hurting a little bit. He came back. It looks like his ankle again is kind of hurting him well, and it's not looking too good for LeBron James. And he was asked about the possibility of playing play-in games. He was not happy about that. It seemed as if, he probably wants the person who suggested that idea at the NBA to be fired. The problem is that a year ago, before everyone was playing in the bubble, LeBron said playing a play-in tournament would be a good idea.
Yeah. He was advocating for it last year, and he said it's a good way to not discredit the teams who battled through a 60 game, however many games they played last season, and have them not make the playoffs. And so he was advocating for this play-in, and now he is going against it. So a bit in a year's time, a bit contradictory. But look, like, explain it to the listeners. Like, what does this mean for the people in the play-ins, Julian?
Like, okay,
not the people, the teams in the play-in.
I'll admit this to everybody here. We kind of peel the curtain back here. Frank and I read through the rules of how the play-in tournament is supposed to work, because admittedly I did not know, and I'm going to try to explain this as best as I can here. So the 7th and 8th seeds in each conference will play each other in a play-in game, and the winner of that game will be the 7th seed. The loser of that game will play the winner of the 9th and 10th game. So the 9th and 10th seeds in each conference will play each other in a game, and the winner of that game will play the loser of the 7-8 game, and the winner of that game will be the 8th seed. So you're getting some one-offs. You're not getting like series or anything. It's a bit it's like a weird way of them trying to copy what the MLB was doing with the wild card games and all that, kind of, sorta, I guess. But very interesting. And that's why a team like the Toronto Raptors, who are like 2.5 games out of that 10th seed in the Eastern Conference, while they, in another year, you think maybe they tank, this year they still have something to play for. Personally, I think it's a pretty cool idea. And I think it's hilarious that people who were advocating for this previously, apparently Mark Cuban of the Dallas Mavericks was pro this, and I think has since reverted on that. For what it's worth, the Mavericks are a couple places up on 7th place. It's just funny to see people who were cool with it because, hey, they weren't going to be in the games. Maybe a team like the Phoenix Suns, when they weren't good last year, has a chance of making it through. Or, hey, the Portland Trailblazers, they weren't that great last year. They have an opportunity to not have their seasons go for naught.
Was it the Washington Wizards as well?
The Washington Wizards this year, the Memphis Grizzlies this year, the Golden State Warriors, who I'll get to in a second, where they're without Klay Thompson. They're not the same team as they were a few years ago when they were winning all those titles. They have a chance to play some meaningful games. Do you want to go up against Steph Curry in the playoffs? Be careful with that. I don't know. I like the idea of a play-in game, and I can't wait until those games start in about 2 weeks. I'm just very curious what's going to look like for the Lakers this year, because I thought at the beginning of the year, like, okay, wow, it's on them to repeat this year, but the Sixers are good, the Nets are good, the Bucks are being looked at as well. The Phoenix Suns are atop the Western Conference. The Utah Jazz have been good for most of the year. Even though the Denver Nuggets aren't going to have Jamal Murray, they're still good. They're likely going to have the MVP and Nikola Jokic. And the Clippers, Los Angeles Clippers, they're going to go for it every year when they have Paul George and Kawhi Leonard. I didn't even mention the New York Knicks, a team that I did not think they're probably, maybe you think of them as a contender, maybe you don't think of them as a contender, but I think of them as a team that's just going to make things really fun in the playoffs, because the Knicks have some good young talent. RJ Barrett is on that team, and he's been playing really well, but also the New York Knicks fan base, who have been starving for anything good for the better part of maybe just a couple decades here. I get they've had teams in the 90s that were really good, but like, geez,
they missed the playoffs for quite some time. They've been on the bottom of the barrel for a few years now.
Yeah, that's true. I should say, the teams back then were really good, but like, it's been a while since they've had those teams. And if there's one thing I enjoy, it's seeing New York Knicks fans just kind of act out. If we get a series, I don't know how it would work out, but if we somehow got a series between the Knicks and the Nets, that is must-watch television. Yeah. I'm telling you, stop what you're doing, watch the Knicks and the Nets, because whoever loses that fan base is not going to hear the end of it. If the Nets somehow win, the Brooklyn fans are going to be all like, yeah, that's what's up. Suck it, Knicks fans. If the Knicks win, considering what the Nets had to do to get the big three that they have, the memes. Oh my God. The memes after not just break the internet, they could power a small town, as far as I'm concerned. That's how intense it would get. So definitely keep it locked for the NBA playoffs when they happen. But I want to mention Steph Curry specifically, because he had himself a dope April, 96 threes, the most anyone has ever hit in a month. Steph Curry has that honor. And Steph Curry has played himself into MVP talk. Yes, Nikola Jokic is likely going to be the guy. Yes, Joel Embiid is there, but why not throw some votes your way if you happen to be an awards voter in the NBA towards Steph Curry, who just his three ball is still immaculate. His shot is still perfect, and he's still one of the more fun guys to watch in the association. I love Steph Curry. I love the fact that he's been playing really well, and I love the fact that the Golden State Warriors, through this play-in tournament and through his play, it looks as if they're going to have some meaningful games to play beyond the regular season. At least one.
Well, good for them. I mean, they're 32 and 32, 500 team. Like you said, looking to make an impact heading into playoff time. I think I saw a highlight of Steph, like maybe it was last week or 2 weeks ago, that he just like pulls up half court and makes shots at this point. Like he doesn't even have to run down to the 3-point line.
He's been doing that.
Yeah,
he's been hitting from half court. That's the thing, though. Like that's just like an expectation for Steph Curry now.
Like,
for him to hit a shot from half court.
What's interesting is that you said 96 threes in the month of April.
Yes.
I wonder how many of those are like 3 feet back of the 3-point line. That's a good stat to have too. Like just to see how much further some of them are.
That'd be a good shot chart to just see every one of his shots where they were taken over the month of April. Great month for Steph Curry. Look out for the Golden State Warriors. I know they're not completely at full strength, as I mentioned before. They don't have Klay Thompson, but if Steph Curry is out there balling, watch out. Watch out. Watch out.
Definitely.
So we ran through the NBA. We ran through the NFL. We know the NHL playoffs are starting to wind down as well. In the North Division, we happen to be in a Canadian market, so of course we're looking at teams there. We happen to be in Montreal, where we've seen the fan base go from, oh my God, we might miss the playoffs. The Calgary Flames might take us over. What about Vancouver? They've been winning games since COVID. To, hey, the Winnipeg Jets are like 2 points ahead of us in the North Division. Just imagine me as a Montreal Canadiens fan and wearing like a Montreal. Imagine if I was Ash. Imagine if I was Ash Ken Karpafusian. Imagine if I was the almighty Grand Poobah of Watch Mojo, who happens to be a Montreal Canadiens fan. Hey, the Winnipeg Jets are like 2 points ahead of us in the North Division standings. If we win a few games, we could get ourselves into third seed. We could play against Connor McDavid in the second round, the Edmonton Oilers. Yeah, you know what? That's pretty cool. Isn't it funny how winning changes? And what do you think? It's probably a pretty crappy Ash impersonation, but I imagine that's what he's thinking.
Man, like you said, they've managed to, I think it's by their better play over the past few games and Calgary's not so good play as well, because they've been on the struggle bus for a bit as well. They can't form any consistency similar to the Canadians. I think that if we're realistic, if we're going to be talking about this seriously, I think that being 2 points out from Winnipeg with the same amount of games played, and correct me, is there 56 or 57 total?
56.
Okay, there's 56. So there's 6 games left for both those teams. You got to imagine that fans of both those teams, like the pressure, the panic has kind of pivoted a little bit for Montreal and Winnipeg, because Winnipeg was like, oh, we got a cushion. Montreal's like fighting for the 4th seed. We're fine. And Montreal fans were like, oh, we might not even make the playoffs at this point. Those were both of their panic levels, low for Winnipeg, high for Montreal. And now it's like kind of pivoted in the sense that, well, Winnipeg's like, well, wait a minute, we might not get third place anymore. So it's been crazy how things have changed so quickly. But if Montreal managed to, man, I'm speaking like I'm shocked, but if I genuinely am, if they manage to surpass Winnipeg and play Edmonton, they got to be feeling a lot better about themselves.
By the way, I find it hilarious that to the last 2 questions I asked, which were, what do you think of the Canadians, obviously in the spot that they're in, and what did you think of my Ash impersonation? You just skipped the Ash part because, it was 1 bad, 2, you don't want to get in trouble with Ash.
I didn't. No, I don't think we'd get in trouble with Ash. I didn't.
It's just play.
Yeah, it's just play. But yeah, no, it's an interesting race in the North Division. I honestly, like, aside from them, are you keeping an eye on anyone in the American divisions?
I'm trying to. The East divisions are pretty. What's really interesting about the East divisions is that you have Pittsburgh, you have Washington, you have the Islanders, and those 3 teams are really good. All 3 of those teams are going to make the playoffs. it seems like none of them want to play the 4th seed, which looks like as if it's going to be the Boston Bruins, all because of Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall has added to the team. He's a good secondary scorer, and now all of a sudden people are looking at this team like, whoops,
let's not do that.
I don't know if we want to do that. The Central Division, Carolina, Tampa Bay, Florida are going to be in. Nashville and Dallas are going to be the 2 teams fighting for that 4th seed. By the time you listen to this, Tyler Seguin will have played his first game in months after being injured. Remember, he was laboring from the Stanley Cup playoffs last year, and he's now returned to full strength to help the Dallas Stars. So that's going to be very interesting. And that's going on in the Central Division. And then in the West Division, it's Vegas, Colorado, Minnesota in the top 3 spots. And then you have St. Louis and Arizona battling for 4th seed. But I'd be surprised if the Blues relinquish that 4th seed. They've got 3 games in hand on Arizona. But it's also interesting to see if Colorado can surpass Vegas atop that division as well. So some pretty interesting division races going on pretty much across the league outside of the North Division as well. And the season's winding down.
I've got a question for you, Julian.
Okay,
all this talk kind of made me just think about this.
Sure.
You know, we're a bit more than a year out from having this crippling, I guess, pandemic just wreck the world. And yet, like a year, I mean, it didn't just start now, but a year and a bit later, and we're just listing off sports events like it's nothing. Like, aren't we so spoiled? Like, don't you ever just take a seat back and you think, like, we have so much to watch. It's unreal.
I don't know if spoil is the right word. I definitely think about it. I definitely wonder if a lot of other leagues have kind of jumped the gun in and have gone all in too soon on starting back, but I don't know. I also think that a lot of countries have just resigned themselves to the fact that they're just trying to live through this pandemic, and I don't necessarily feel all that comfortable about it. So I don't know if spoiled is the right word I would use. I know every time people kind of ask me stuff like that, like, man, how do you feel about having like all these sports going on all at once? I get very like introspective, and I'm like, I don't want to get too like, I don't want to be overflowing with praise on this, because this is still a very serious time, and a lot of families and people out there are still being gravely affected. People are getting vaccines, which is good. I believe for both of us and where we're at, it should be available for us in about a little over a week, mid-May, for both of us, because we're both in the same age range for when it's available for us to get vaccinated. I've seen people out in Ontario say that they've started booking vaccine appointments for themselves. Apparently in Ontario, the line to get yourself a vaccine is pretty wild for a lot of the majority of the population of the province. Like, you're like waiting in line or calling in on the phone for waiting like an hour for a vaccine, which is kind of weird. And it's very likely if you are watching this from the United States, you're just like, well, what the hell are we?
Yeah, what are we talking about here?
What are we talking about here? I'm fully vaccinated. Like, what's the deal? But all that to say, with sports, I am happy and thankful that we have sports as a distraction from what's going on right now, even though COVID definitely involves itself in the conversation of sports inevitably. But yeah, I definitely am taken aback, and I noticed the fact that there are so many sports on a little over a year after a pandemic started, where around this time last year, there were virtually none, or at least like think about it, like at this time last year, like Korean, like the KBO was the thing to watch, like Korean baseball was the thing to watch.
Good point.
Like Sportsnet was like going in on showing us like Bundesliga highlights and Bundesliga games, which was cool because Alphonso Davies is playing out in Bayern. But like, yeah, we were looking at all these different leagues that we wouldn't watch here for sports, because we're all that desperate for sports. It is really interesting.
Yeah, definitely. That was a good point, man. I completely forget about that. Just a year's time, and all of this has transpired. All of it has changed. But what else do we got on the ledger here, Julian? Did you have any other topics?
So I know that I'm thinking here. There were 2 things I wanted to bring up. I'll bring this up very quickly. We mentioned the Super League a few episodes ago, and pretty much true to form off of what I was saying with how, hey, I hope the Super League dissolves, like pretty much after that episode drops. Pretty much like not too long after, one by one, clubs started dropping. It hasn't stopped the protests, though. A lot of Manchester United fans in particular over the weekend protesting at Old Trafford, leading to the postponement of Man United Liverpool. Gotta say though, the fans who want to, and you can tell here with the video, I am a Manchester United fan myself. And the Glazers ownership has not inspired a lot of confidence from a lot of fans. So I am not going to go against those fans who feel to show off their right to protest. So that's all I'm going to say about the Super League and the protests going on there. What I will also mention is the Hero Zero segment, which we had for a few episodes going. We had some guests in the last few episodes, so it's kind of been pushed to the wayside here. I will mention, you don't have to mention any if you don't have any, Frank, but I'll just mention a hero and a zero here. I'll mention for a hero, I think Najee Harris could fit because of the fact that he was able to have his draft party at the homeless shelter.
That's what I wanted. I couldn't remember the specific event that took place, like what he did, but I knew Najee Harris did something, and I wanted to mention it. So that's a perfect one.
Yeah, that could work. Ryan Miller, remember Ryan Miller, the former Buffalo Sabres goaltender, currently with the Anaheim Ducks. He looks as if he's going to be retiring. Nearly 400 wins to his tally. I think he played against the Los Angeles Kings over the weekend. And after the game, some Kings players,
the whole team
in a line, the whole team shaking hands with him, giving him dap and congratulating him. He got the win in that start too, a 6-2 win. So I'll give him some praise as well. And for a zero, I had to mention this because I think this is funny. One other story that we actually didn't mention, but I guess it's a good time to mention it in the zero here. The U.S. broadcasting rights for the NHL starting next season. ESPN will get the majority of that coverage, but TNT, Turner Sports, will be getting it as well. So TNT will likely get involved in it somehow. Bleacher Report will be getting some access to highlights as well, which means pretty sure Cabby Richards is probably going to be doing something involved in the NHL, right?
Definitely.
Like, there's no way he doesn't, right? During one of TNT's broadcasts last week for the NBA, I think Adam Lefkoe, Shaq, Candace Parker, and Dwayne Wade all in the same panel. They showed this graphic that had Alexander Ovechkin and the captain of the Edmonton Oilers. And we both know who the captain of the Edmonton Oilers is right now, Connor McDavid. Instead, TNT used a photo of Andrew Ference.
Stop it. Stop it.
You know what's funny?
I would have appreciated like Wayne Gretzky more than Andrew Ference at that point.
I have a question. When you think of Andrew Ference, is there any particular memory that stands out of Andrew Ference? And if it is what I think it is, like, it probably is what I think it is.
So the thing that I remember the most, actually, funny enough, is that I think the quick one that people will go to is the equipment malfunction.
Yes.
In the playoffs versus the Montreal Canadiens, of course.
2011, I think.
Yep. Where the Boston Bruins beat Montreal in a 7-game series. And so he scores a goal in Montreal, and obviously the celebration was the middle finger up to the fans, but he called it an equipment malfunction. So that's probably maybe one that most people will bring up. But the one that I remember the most from Andrew Ference is his like cheap shot hit on Jeff Halpern. I don't know if it was that same series or maybe a year before that.
Interesting. I didn't remember. I did not remember that.
But you know what I'm talking about, right? Where he just leans in.
I forgot that hit. I forgot about that.
Okay, so you don't know what it is at all.
No, it doesn't register in my head.
So
I didn't expect that at all.
It's in the playoffs, and Montreal versus Boston. Montreal at the Garden, and I don't know if it was the same series. Could be, but anyways, Montreal and Boston had a few series together in that time span, and the puck was leaving the Boston zone. And Jeff Halpern, as hockey players do, they kind of just circle around the net to gain momentum and go back to their zone. Jeff Halpern is beginning his circling of the Boston zone, and Jeff Halpern just does a little cheeky shoulder, like a very discreet but kind of obvious like shoulder push into Jeff Halpern's head, like knocks him out. Like I think he was removed from the game. He had a concussion, and then all I remember is the Bruins commentating team. With Jack Edwards and his partner on Nesson. Is it Nesson or NESN? I don't know how to pronounce that.
I think you can get away with Nesson.
Yeah, so on Nesson, and you know what they said when that happened, Julian? Just classic Nesson here. Classic Jack. But it wasn't Jack who said it. It was his play-by-play. Color
I don't
commentator.
know. Yeah.
They said Jeff Halpern has to be more aware of his surroundings. You can go back and you can listen to that audio.
I pulled up the video. I'm not listening to the audio here, but I see Jeff Halpern on his knees just trying to come to here. 2011. So it was that same 2011 series.
There you go.
It makes sense because I think Halpern was only on the Canadians that year.
I think it was, anyways. Yeah, I think, yeah. So it was, anyways, it was that series. That's the moment I remember from Andrew Ferentz. What was yours?
It was the equipment malfunction. Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought you were going to go with. And then you brought up this hit on Jeff Halpern, which I completely erased from my mind. And geez, you are a treasure. You are a treasure trove. You are a treasure trove of memories and fun stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyways, big 0 to TNT.
I'm sure. Hopefully they'll get it right. I'm sure.
Like that's so American. Like when it comes to hockey, like not have the right, like the most talented and like the best player in the league who happens to be the captain of Edmonton, and you put a guy who was captain from 6 years ago.
Andrew Ferentz of all people.
It's just unreal.
But here's what I want to know. Like when you're putting, I don't know, I'm not adept at the world of like creating graphics for TV, but like when you're building that and you're trying to find the images, what comes to mind when you think, okay, Alexander Ovechkin, I know who that guy is. And then like, did they type in like Edmonton Oilers captain? Did they type in Connor McDavid? Was there an issue with like Getty Images or something? Like that happens. Maybe that's it. I don't know, but like it's just hilarious.
It reminds me of that story you mentioned about the San Jose Sharks, and they had B-roll of actual sharks.
Actual sharks.
That's what it reminds me of, but I don't know which one's worse. I mean, I guess you could play off the Sharks one a bit easier. Like, oh yeah, it was just a mistake on the production side, but like someone had to go and pick Andrew Ferentz. Oh boy.
And not just, and it's not just like any old station. At least like the Shark story is just like a random news station in California. TNT's company, the parent company, will have the rights to broadcast NHL games next year. Like the news is announced, and the first thing you do is that. Like that sucks.
Jeez.
At least ESPN, they had Stephen A. Smith just do the top 5 like things he knows about hockey. That you can at least say that was entertaining. That was just like, oh man. But hey, maybe we'll get Charles Barkley to talk about the National Hockey League too. That would be fun.
100%.
That would be fun.
We spoke about this, I think, with Stephen A. Like
about Stephen A. Yeah.
Obviously, we kind of made it a joke by saying like, oh, let's put a baby face Stephen A. talking about hockey, but Stephen A., Charles Barkley, like talking about hockey, like I'd tune in and watch. I know it probably wouldn't be the most insightful or accurate. I don't know, unless they do the research, who knows? But they don't come off as hockey guys, so that's what
but that's it. But like no disrespect to Stephen A. and Charles. Like if I hear either of them talk about the sport, I'm not listening to those two to have them be like, man, they're going to be super insightful. They know everything there is to know about the hockey. I want them to be entertaining. I want them to be fun. Like I want them to talk about it just because it's like, it's not a sport that I expect them to talk about. So I just want them to be entertaining. And those are just two people who happen to be entertaining in the respective realms that they happen to be in. So like, I think it would just be funny.
You know what it's like, Julian? You know, when you're introducing a sport to a new fan, and you're like, you're getting jitty on the edge of your seat. Like you're like, oh, when all the cool stuff happens, you want to see their reaction. But like this is with this is with a new fan. So, but then these people have a platform. They have a voice that we can see them bare knuckle fights, or Alex Ovechkin just steamrolling through someone on the bench in the playoffs. And they're going to be, I mean, I'm sure they've seen hockey, but at in the playoffs.
Apparently Charles Barkley is like a big Coyotes fan, which makes sense because he played in Phoenix and, he's enamored with the area, obviously. Stephen A. Smith, I'm a bit surprised that he might not be as big of a hockey fan, only because of the fact that like he grew up in like Philly and like he works in the New York area. Yeah. So like, nothing for the Flyers. The Flyers are a tough organization. Like I find like a lot of people who are in Philly, like they'll rep the Flyers too, because they kind of embody who they are. Or if you're in New York, you could be like, okay, like Stephen A. Smith, if he had to pick a team, like he looks like either a Flyers or a Rangers fan.
Yeah.
Like Stephen A. Smith, like he wouldn't be an Islanders fan. He would not be an Islanders fan. Stephen A. Smith does not look like the guy who would hang out in Staten Island or like Nassau County or whatever. Like he is like, let him hang on Broadway. He's at MSG anyway for Knicks games. Let him watch the Rangers games.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we can speculate all we want about broadcasters for American networks broadcasting NHL games. Hey, maybe one day Watch Mojo gets enough money and they start getting some NHL rights. I'm just putting that out there in the universe. Don't get mad at me for it. But yeah, I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to go through for this week's edition of the Waterboys podcast.
That is all, man.
Yeah. I guess it's time for us to do some housekeeping. So if you want to follow the Twitter account, go follow the Twitter account, the Waterboys WM on Twitter, the Waterboys _podcast on Instagram. More importantly, if you want to listen or watch the podcast, subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to us on Spotify, subscribe to us on Apple as well, pretty much wherever you get your podcasts. And go check out Watch Mojo's actual YouTube channel, and you may even find some top 10s in the world of sports voiced by yours truly. Frank, when are they going to let you voice a top 10?
Oh, I don't know. I think you've got that job down packed, Julian. You're the guy. They don't want anyone else.
You're not going to fight for it? You don't want to do one? You've never wanted to voice a top 10?
I don't know. Maybe if it comes around, I'd probably accept it, but it's not something. I don't know. I mean, I feel like you've had that goal. Like a part of you was like, damn, I would have liked to have done that. It was something that you wanted to check off your bucket list. It wasn't for me.
Damn.
Fair enough, I guess. I don't know. Harsh, but hey.
All right, Watch Mojo. It's official now. You can give me all the sports top 10s. Frank doesn't want any. Yeah, cool. Thanks so much for listening, everybody, to this week's episode 23 of the Waterboys podcast. Keep it locked for more episodes. Keep it locked for more content. For Frank, I'm Julian saying so long. Peace.